Victoria Swan Lake.
Madam Speaker, since the school year began, school districts across our province have struggled with system-wide malfunctions from this government's new $100 million MyEducation BC computer system. The chair of the Central Okanagan School District recently wrote to the minister and described the performance of the new system as unacceptable and outlined how teachers and staff are, quote, putting in countless hours of extra time to ensure that schools and classrooms are able to function. The system is described as, quote, monumentally time-consuming just for basic tasks like taking attendance or changing a student's course registration, and the mounting extra costs and frustrations continue. This week, Madam Speaker, the entire MyEd BC system will be offline right in the middle when midterm reports are due in the school system. So to the Minister of Education, how much has his government's failure on the implementation of MyEd BC cost school district budgets in British Columbia?
Minister of Education.
Honourable Speaker, thank you very much. What's really important to stress here is a couple of weeks ago when this issue came up in the House, one of the things I did talk about was the fact that we recognized that there was a slowdown. That's why ministry staff was working around the clock. That's why ministry staff engaged with the vendor. The vendor stepped forward and recognized that there was some issues with the performance of this. We communicated with the school districts. In fact, Honourable Speaker, we set up a committee working right around the province, working with school districts to ensure that as we worked forward with the MyEd BC, that it met the expectations that the vendor promised, and one that we as a government are willing to commit to.
Victoria Swan Lake on a supplemental.
Yes, thank you, Madam Speaker. Let's remember that it was this government that negotiated this IT deal and then forced it onto all school districts. And it is school districts who have their staff working around the clock and on weekends and are incurring the costs that his government won't pay for, and they're bearing all the risks when this system fails. The minister's right. There's been an acknowledgement from the vendor. The Vice President of Fujitsu America wrote a letter to all school districts and admitted that his company has failed them and that school districts aren't the ones at fault. And let me just quote from this letter, because I think it's interesting, Madam Speaker. He writes, all chairs to, quote, directly acknowledge the concerns with the new MyEducation BC system. Our role in supporting the education of children in British Columbia is truly a sacred responsibility. Recently, the incremental load on the system has caused performance issues. We deeply regret this and sincerely apologize. We acknowledge that more effort on our part is required to meet the standards of our contractual commitments, Madam Speaker, contractual commitments. Yet it is districts that are incurring the cost for unbudgeted staff overtime, hiring extra IT personnel, and dealing with the failings of the new system. None of it is covered by the province. None of it is covered by Fujitsu. So to the minister again, if his government's hand-picked IT provider provided a system that failed on day one, why is it that school districts are paying the cost and ultimately our kids paying the price?
Minister of Education.
Well, thank you, Honourable Speaker. First, I want to clarify something the member opposite said. This was not handpicked specifically by the Ministry of Education or by this government. In fact, Honourable Speaker, there was 3 years of hard work done working with teachers around the province, working with superintendents from around the province who collectively came forward and said, this is what we need as a system to ensure we have the best outcomes for the students in British Columbia. And Honourable Speaker, one more thing I want to clarify. I appreciate the letter from Fujitsu. I'm glad that the member opposite read out some of the quotes from Fujitsu. The vendor has stepped forward and recognized, Honourable Speaker, that they have not met their commitment. There were penalties applied to this company, and the company, Honourable Speaker, has said that they will be standing up. They have made changes. An honourable member opposite should know also from the letter that he received that the person that was complaining about the slowdown was referring to last month, Honourable Speaker. Since we've changed, the vendors has put in further applications to this system. We have continued to see steady improvements in the system, Madam Speaker.